Hello world, welcome to Americana. I'm your host, Willie Montague. Tonight, the curtain comes down, the truth they hide, the deals, the power plays, the lives being shaped without your say. We're exposing it all right here on Americana. It's going to be real, relevant, and most definitely relational. Stay tuned. This is Americana. Well, I hope you guys are seated because we're getting ready to, of course, bring some hot topics. We're going to be talking about Charlie Kirk, race and the politicized hive, outsourcing energy and the culture crutch, and vaccine and the new obedience. But we're not going to do it alone. Today is definitely very special because we have with us the queen herself, Nicole Inmon. She has no problem keeping it real. Lots coming up on today's episode. But before we get started, you already know what time it is. Get the drum roll ready. It's Willie's Take. All right, folks, this is the time where I get to rant. We want more. We want everything. We ignore costs. We ignore pain. We take a break. We take burnout. And when it's all gone, we stare at absolutely nothing. And you know what we call it? We call it life. Well, we're actually going to get into this today because I'm so glad to have with us our very special guest, Nicole Inmon, who is an extraordinary holistic practitioner. And we're getting ready to dive into the topic of Charlie Kirk and what about this race and the politicized hive. So welcome to Americana, Nicole Inmon.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Well, this is going to be something we're going to talk about that is going to be intriguing because when we talk about Charlie Kirk, the assassination, Turning Point USA, September 10th, this just happened. Authorities say suspects was motivated by opposition to Kirk's views, political motive. Following his death, over 280 complaints were filed against public school educators in Texas alone for comments about Kirk's assassination. So I want to turn this to you, Nicole, and tell us, what do you think about this hive mentality, as we like to call it? What is going on, and especially where it's just being twisted to make it become this red versus blue, white versus black? What's happening? What is your view on this?
Yeah, so I want to start by saying, obviously, I mean, I'm sure you know this about me. I'm not a politician, not by any stretch of the imagination. But for me, when I look at the collective and I look at what's happening at large, I see it through the lens of health. I'm a holistic practitioner. And so as I've been watching what's been happening with this whole Charlie Kirk situation, it's been amazing to me to watch how it has become so politicized that now it's black against white. And for the life of me, I'm really trying to see how we got there, right? So it started off with the Democrats versus Republicans, right? And it was, he's speaking his mind, he's speaking against things that are typically Democrat, right? So he's more to the right. But then all of a sudden it became about racism. And I was just like, wait, how did we get here? How did this become about racism? Especially when you look at the idea is that he was shot by somebody who was the same skin color as him. And it just made me really take a step back and realize that there are so many rhetorics that are pushed. And unfortunately, as a collective, because we're so conditioned, we just kind of go along with the flow. So something pops up and we hold on to it. Social media is great for this. We hold on to these sound bites and then it's like, oh yeah, we take off with it and this is what it is. And
where
so
do you,
now,
where do you think we got that from? Like, why have we become such a politicized nation to where, because for me, when we talk about politics and we look at it from that angle, as you said, you're not a politician, but just from an outside looking in or being around politics, because you've been around a lot of politics.
I have.
So when you look at that, like really where we're going to get back to just that unification that's there, because I think that, we spoke so much about free speech because this is where it started from.
Yeah.
His free speech got him murdered.
Right.
Then it became people saying it was Israel. Then people said
Right.
it was Trump. And
Right.
so now it was, because he was racist.
Right.
This is him getting,
His
payback, his
payback.
karma. And so it's like, where do we get off? Like, how do we start, jumping off this cliff?
So as I zoom out and I look, it's not going to happen until each individual regains their sovereignty, until they actually start thinking for themselves, making decisions for themselves, having their own opinion, trusting their own opinion, even if it differs from someone else, and that we start respecting that. There is no, I always tell my clients that there's no one size fits all, there is biodiversity, right? And so even in our opinions, how we see things, the backgrounds that we come from, those all shape and color how we view, how we see the world. But a lot of that is lost. So it's just kind of like this conveyor belt sameness that, and so that spills over into politics. So if this side is louder, then I jump on that bandwagon and I'm louder, even though I know inside, niggling in me is like, oh, this isn't quite right. But there's fear in being an individual.
So I will say this, is this rhetoric really, this whole race war and this, coming to a place of hive mentality, is this really about justice or just people that are just keyboard warriors? I just really, I feel like because we have just gotten this insensitive place, but is it just keyboard warring? Like we're not to a place where it's justice. Was there really justice served? Some people would say this is justice served, and I had said that earlier, but that's what it's looked like. Like, is this a racist thing where it's like, oh, he was racist, and that's where we're standing. We're not going to move off of that. Where do we go? What's the next step?
Well, I guess what I'm seeing is that people are so desperate to become relevant, and because social media is so, it's become this monster, sort of. So there are the keyboard warriors who just say things, but the idea is that I have something I want to say, and what can I say where people can hear me and they want to pay attention to me? And that can get me more views and more followers. And it's not really, because if you talk, like I actually know people, if you talk to them and their opinion is not what they're saying out on, in the spaces. This is more about, I get more views, I get more follows, I can go viral. So, yeah.
Well, you guys, you're hearing it right here. We have with us none other, as I like to say, we have with us a lady, Nicole Inmon, with us, and we're breaking it all down. We were just talking about what's happening with this whole race war with Charlie Kirk. But when we come back, we still have with us Miss Inmon. We're getting ready to take a quick commercial break, but don't go anywhere. All of your answers and all of the controversy is right here on Americana. Thus, during a commercial break. You know where to find us Monday through Friday, only on AFRO TV. This is Americana, 6:30 p.m. But today we have with us a very special guest, and I want you guys to follow her at Healing Place with Nikki. Make sure you follow her, follow AFRO, and follow Willie J. Montague on Instagram. We are sure to keep you in the loop and making sure that everything is real, relevant, and relational. I want you to get back to the show because we're getting ready to come back with some hot topics. Thank you for staying with us. All right, welcome back from the commercial break. You are here with Willie Montague on Americana, and we are joined with a very special guest today, Nicole Inmon. So we're getting ready to get into this topic. It is intriguing, interesting. A recent Gallup poll found that 80%, that's right, 80% of Americans report daily stress, and almost half say they feel burned out. Yet instead of building resilience, we outsource our energy to politics, to culture wars, even to movements that promise quick fixes. So join us, as I said, with us is Nicole Inmon. Let's have that. Have we replaced our personal well-being for politics, culture wars? Where have we put our energy? And now why is everybody stressed, but we're still entertaining it?
Oh, my. That's a deep question. From what I can see, I think it kind of goes back to what we were talking about in our last segment, which is not really knowing yourself. And so when you don't know yourself, you're looking for identity everywhere except within. And so that may show up as politics, that may show up in a numerous amount of places. But again, until people get back to that place of recentering, coming home to themselves and really learning who they are, that's why we're stressed. So we take jobs that we don't really like because we've got bills to pay. But it's like, okay, but are you operating in what you're here to do? Because that's the only way that you're really going to get fulfillment and do this job, and it's not going to stress you out. And so it's just this, you get this compound effect of one thing after the other, just constant outsourcing, constant, sort of betrayal of self. And it just keeps going, and it's like this rat race and this hamster wheel that just keeps going.
And that's a good point, because you mentioned outsourcing. Briefly explain to everyone outsourcing.
So through the lens of health, when I'm with my clients, and they come to me, for example, they've got cancer, and the whole idea of outsourcing is that I run to the doctor to find the answers, or I run anywhere else to find the answers, when ultimately your body knows all the answers. Your body knows why you have cancer, what's happened that's an imbalance in your life, why. Basically it's a messenger. So any disease, cancer, they're all symptoms, and they're all messengers telling you, hey, something is out of balance. You need to rebalance it. You rebalance that, and everything else goes back to normal. But we are in a culture of constantly not trusting ourselves and outsourcing to everybody else, everything else. So if I take this diet pill, it's going to fix my issue. If I, drink this drink, it's going to fix my issue. If I, date this person, it will be better. I will be better. So everything is this constant just giving away pieces of yourself.
And when we talk about 80% of Americans, in some ways, we might as well have said 100%, but 80% of Americans, identifying stressors. Mm-hmm. And here we are in a politically charged climate. And this is essentially what we see. You see politics in church.
Yep.
You see politics in the schools, from, as people like to mention, book bannings and so forth. And then, now where we're seeing shows that are being canceled, we're seeing people, as we call it, the cancel culture. And so with this outsourcing, do you think that we will get back to a place where we can identify where we need to have our own self-awareness and waking ourselves up to say, there's something completely wrong with this. Like, we should not be a society that is continuing to pour out, because if we're 80% of us in the United States alone, not even the world, God knows what it would be in the world, but if we're 80% just in the United States and all of our energies and stresses are just there, what are we going to do? Because the political change is not going to go away. We're going to have all this political chaos for a long time. We got midterms coming up in 2026. So what do you say to that? Like, when is it going to shift and go away, or is it just going to get worse?
I think that I think that it's actually happening, probably on a smaller scale. I think people are becoming more and more aware of themselves on some level, but I don't think we have a choice, to be honest with you. I think that it's going to happen. It has to happen. I think we're beginning to see things breaking down. If you look at things like how many parents are homeschooling their children now? There is this movement where they're pulling their children out of public schools because, as far as they're concerned, those systems are no longer working for their families. And I think that we're going to begin to see more and more and more of that, and people just being like, you know what, this is not working. We need to do something different. And so hopefully, the hope is that, you know, it will get to a place where people start saying, okay, how do I feel about this? What do I want? What are my values? And how are my values lining up with what I am being told I should do, who I should be, what job I should have? So that's the hope. But I think that it's inevitable. I think that when we look at history and different spaces, not different spaces, when we look at history, what it shows us is that there's like this pendulum swing, right? So there are points in history where, you know, we're all the way over conservative, and then we go all the way over liberal. So I feel as though, you know, it's going to continue to do that. However long that lasts, you know, things will change, and then it'll swing back the other way, and then we'll have a different.
Well, I'm getting ready to ask a raw,
oh gosh,
unfiltered question right now, just real quick.
Okay.
LBJ said that he would have, if he could, I know somebody said it wasn't, that the Negro, I'm going to say it that way, would be voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And then we have so many people that have this white savior complex, about 45 seconds answers, white savior complex. And here we are in our black communities. So for me, I want to know, have the black community just adapted to a white slave mentality and claim that they are woke and black and free, or are they just still on the plantation?
Why would you ask me this question?
Because I just want to know, like, I feel like people are still, you know, connected to this slave mentality, but they're saying they're woke.
Okay, well, let's see. How far into the 200 years are we?
I would say we're just getting started. Some people still on this plantation and don't want to get off, and that's the problem for us. You know, but real fast, can you do it in like 30 seconds? Do you think that, you know, we're going to get off this plantation?
I guess we'll see.
Guess we see. Just say, guess we see. Folks, I do believe we are still on this, well, not us. I'm talking, some of these folks are still on this plantation and don't want to get free. And this is why we have such a hive mentality, and we also have such a need to just be seen, but not actually do things for ourselves. Anyway, you guys, we got to take another quick commercial break, so don't go anywhere. We still have with us Nicole Inmon. Now, when we get back, we're getting ready to discuss another topic, vaccines. And we know how we feel about vaccines over here. At least I know. We're getting ready to have that conversation. Don't go anywhere. This is Americana. All right, out there, social media world, you are still with us for yet another commercial break. Thank you for staying with us. So I want you to, of course, make sure you're following all of us, A Healing Place with Nikki. You're hearing from Nicole Inmon on today. Make sure to follow AFRO TV and Willie J. Montague on all social media platforms. And when we get back to the show, well, before we get back to the show, I want you to comment below. What do you think about what we're talking about Charlie Kirk and racism? What do you think about the hive mentality? And do you think vaccines is a thing of the past, or are we still going to be told what to do? So let's get back to the show. I want you to stay aware, not typically woke. Let's get back to the show. All right, you guys, thank you for sticking with us. We're getting ready to dive into a hot topic, and I don't want anybody to comment to me about being an anti-vax, because that is what I am. In 2024 and 2025 school year, vaccination coverage for required shots like MMR fell to about 92.5% in kindergartners, and vaccine exemption rose to a record of 3.6%, mostly for non-medical reasons, which would be like religious exemption. Vaccines have become more than health tools. They've been a thing of a symbol of identity, obedience, and rebellion. So I'm turning over to someone who is actually a health practitioner to have this. We have with us Nicole Inmon, of course, but when we get ready to ask, this is going to be something I want us to think about. Nicole.
Yes, sir.
With these vaccines, now people going to call us anti-vax, and that's okay. I tell them, comment to their mother. But this is outside of that. This is the thing. If we're talking about vaccines, it should be a thing of choice.
Absolutely.
It should not be something that should be mandated and pushed. We saw during the pandemic that so many people were forced out of their jobs, out of their long life careers, schools because of vaccines. And you work with basically recovery of people's bodies. And so what are we going to do with this? Because it's still a thing. Yo, I just literally last week got a request to write a religious exemption for someone in 2025, 5 years after the pandemic, and we are still having to write religious exemptions for vaccines. What are your thoughts on this?
So I think it's very interesting that I think just recently didn't Governor DeSantis say something about he's doing away with the whole need for vaccinations to be, what is it like? For it to be compulsory or mandatory, that he's taking that away. And it was so funny because I was on Facebook and all my friends were just freaking out, like, oh my gosh, because they've taken this away, parents aren't going to vaccinate their children, it's going to cause an issue, people are going to get sick. And it was like, okay, this is not new. You know, being able to get an exemption for your children is not new. My oldest biological child, we're a blended family, is 25. And none of my children are vaccinated because I understood that the immune system is what keeps you safe. So if you eat properly, if you take care of the body, it knows how to fight for you. You have a whole immune system with layers and layers, and it knows exactly how to take care of you. So I do feel that the pandemic definitely caused people again to outsource, not trust themselves. Like, it was just this whole fear that was drummed behind, you know, if you don't get this thing. So my whole family, we didn't get it. And I have no qualms about saying that. Now, in the thick of it, when it was happening, I was very quiet because it was very charged, right? So it became this pitting against one another. You're selfish if you don't take it. You're putting other people at risk. Why would you do that? And then now on the other side of it, which I'm finding very interesting watching the collective, the other side of it, there's all this evidence that shows all of the damage that it cost. I lost someone in my family, lost someone in my family to a heart attack due to a young person, 45, in good health, and just in the gym working out, dropped, done, finished. And, you know, for the longest, he never did any of that stuff, but here we are, and that was the only thing that came up that showed that was why he lost his life. So again, outsourcing, like getting back to that space of taking care of our bodies, reducing the stress in our lives, you know, that's where it is.
Now, as we're getting ready to conclude real fast, if you could take about 15 seconds, tell people where they can find you at.
You can find me at A Healing Space with Nikki, because we need a healing space. We're all on a journey healing. You can find me there at Instagram, TikTok, and my website is A Healing Space with Nikki also.
All right, well, we thank you, Nicole Inmon, for being with us on the show today. This has definitely been an episode you won't forget, so go back and watch it. That's a wrap today for this episode of Americana. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, only on AFRO TV. Until then, keep questioning, making sure that you are learning and keep showing up. Thank you, and God bless.